Hello everyone, DCB here, and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 model build. In this one, I am building the Primaris Outrider squad. I'll be painting them off screen in my colours of the Ashen Feathers, the chapter inspired by my Dungeons and Dragons group. I will be building them and painting them in subsections for all the fine detail, and I'll be giving you a bit of the lore and the history of the bike squads itself using some copyright-free music underneath. And the leader of this bike squad is Sergeant Sorrow, so let's begin. Use your bike squads as a blade, striking the enemy and turning aside his counter blow in equal measure. But in all things, beware that speed is nothing without direction. Just as even the mightiest weapon is worthless without careful aim. A biker's stance should always and resolute and dauntless, but never immobile or rigid. Speed is the advantage, surprise his deadliest weapons. In fluidity he will find success, and in success shall he find renown. Ultramarines Primer. The Boutte William on the bike squads. So yes, even though these are Primaris Outriders bikes, they are an evolution of the standard Space Marine bikes. Now, typically, a Space Marine bike squad is a close support tactical formation used and utilized by the Adeptus Astartes to serve a wide variety of strategic uses. Some chapters employ them to perform reconnaissance maneuvers or as hit and run raiders behind the enemy lines. Others field the bikes as outriders for armoured columns, scouting ahead for potential ambush sites, and guarding the tank's flanks and rear from assault. Some chapters have even been known to use their bikes to spearhead line-breaking assault, a role in which the White Scars, Iron Hands, and Howling Griffin bike squads excel. When expecting or experiencing heavy resistance, bike squadrons incorporate attack bikes into their ranks. Fitted with armoured sidecars and pile-mounted heavy weapons, these vehicles strike down enemy war engines or massed infantry with ease. So effective is this combination of firepower and speed that many chapters build whole squadrons of attack bikes, using them as highly mobile fire support. A bit on history. Legion Outrider squads were specialized units of the ancient Space Marine legions that was employed during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy eras in the late 30th and early 31st millennia. These squads formed from experienced Space Marines, experts in operating independently and often deeply behind enemy lines. These specialized troops were the ears and eyes of their legion in the field. They took the field mounted upon ruggedly constructed all-terrain armoured ground bikes and scramblers. These squads were utilized for scouting missions and run attacks deep behind enemy lines, the chief advantage of the Outriders being their speed. Their assault bikes enabled them to cover ground far quicker than the infantry and go where heavier vehicles could not. We believe from these formations that the later Adeptus Astartes bike squadrons and later the Primaris Outriders were created, but the attack bikes and bike squadrons were first created after the second founding in the early 31st millennium. role. A Space Marine bike squad carries out fast-moving assault missions using traditionally 8 one-man assault bikes and sometimes with the addition of a single 2-man attack bike, often operated on intelligence gathered by infiltrating scout squads or land speeder reconnaissance flights. A bike squad at full strength for a total of 8 assault bikes and 1 attack bike can split into 2 combat squads. If this is done, one combat squad consists of 5 assault bikes and the other 3 assault bikes and an attack bike. Bike squadrons attack at incredible speed using surprise and unstoppable momentum to punch holes in the enemy formation, accelerating away as the enemy recovers his wits, only to cycle back and once again from an unexpected direction. For a Space Marine biker to operate at full poignancy, the superhuman rider and his mechanical steed must function flawlessly as one. To this end, the Codex Astartes dictates that all chapters Assault Marines, Scout Marines, and the entire 6th Company should master the art of mounted warfare as part of their training regiments. A few chapters take this further. Every Space Marine required to maintain his mounted training, even though he may have long passed into the elite 1st Company or perhaps even into the exalted ranks of the chapter's council. Few chapters amplify this better than the White Scars, who primarily employ bike squads as the main body of any strike force. Other chapters are less enamored of a bike squad's tactical value, performing to send assault forces into battle in rhinos or razorbacks. The Space Marine assault bike itself is a robust construction. It needs to be, for it must be powerful enough to propel a fully armoured Space Marine at dizzying speeds, and yet responsive enough to perform a full range of death-defying combat maneuvers. Even at low speeds, the combination impact mass of bike and rider is no small thing to encounter. Indeed, many experienced Space Marine bikes can boast of riding through rock-cut walls at full speed, suffering neither harm nor impairment. For the heaviest assault missions, it is common for a bike squad's assault bike firepower to be further augmented through the attachment of an attack bike. Each attack bike is a high formidable mobile firebase, with the twin bolter of the bike itself augmented by a multi-melter or heavy bolter mounted on a stubby sidecar. So poignant is the power of the attack bike that many chapters field them in entire squadrons, employing them as fast-moving fire support units to complement scout, assault marines or other bike squads. On the rare occasions where attack bikes are deployed en masse, as they were by the favoured White Scars chapter during the Third War for Armageddon, they prove a nigh unstoppable force. Scout bike squadrons. During the final stages of a Scout Marine's training, he is attached to a bike squad. Scout bikes are employed as fast-moving reconnaissance and disruption units. They operate on far longer leash than any other scouts, often operating as a separate and direct adjournment to the main Space Marine strike force. Answering to none save the commanding sergeant of the Scout Squadron. While Scout bikes continue to perform their hit-and-run tactics, they prefer in their earlier years of service. Their rapport of combat skills is broadened by hand-won experience and further augmented by supplies of special issue equipment. While the enemy concentrates on the main Space Marine attack, Scout bikes ride rampant behind the lines, pulling down orbital bombardments undeserved deployments with pinpoint accuracy. Some variants on the bike squad organisation. Some chapters do not abide by the Codex Astartes and operate the bike squads in a different manner. The Dark Angel's second company, the Raven Wing, is comprised completely mounted on attack bikes, assault bikes and land speeders. The Salamanders are organised into less than the standard 10 companies, but put more Astartes in each. They can only make use of bikes in the 2nd, 3rd and 4th companies. While the Space Wolves do use and make use of bike squadron, the only membered chapter known to ride bikes are the Blood Corps. Even then, only a few Blood Corps make use of this option. The Space Wolf considered the use of bikes to be overly headstrong approach to warfare. At the opposite end of the spectrum, of course, is the White Scars. Make sector of use in every company due to the open plains on which the terrain incongruous and the historical and cultural combination of the manic warriors of the world. The unit composition of a bike squad, as I said, is normally between 2 and 5 Space Marine bikes, 1 biker sergeant, 1 attack bike as represented for 1 assault bike. War gear, normally a power armor, bolt pistol, twin link bolters which are on the bike, a heavy bolter which is only on the attack bike and the sidearm, frag grenades, cracks, grenades, and of course the bike itself. Optional war gear is the chainsword, flamer, grab gun, motor gun or plasma gun, bolt pistol, bolter, chainsword, combi weapons, grab pistols, lightning claws, plasma pistols, power axes, power fists, power maul, power sword, storm bolters or thunder hammers, normally for the bike sergeant only, melter bombs for the bike sergeant, and of course the attack bike with multi-motor. The scout combination is normally 2 to 7 scout bikes, with 1 scout biker sergeant, and normally has the scout armor, bolt pistol, the twin link bolters on the bike obviously, assault grenade launchers as a replacement for the twin link bolters on the bike, shotgun, frag grenades, crack grenades, and the assault bike itself. The optional war gear for scout bikes are bolt pistols, bolters, chainsaws, combi weapons, grab pistols, lightning claws, plasma pistols, power axes, power fists, power mauls, power swords, storm bolters or thunder hammers, once again for the sergeant only, and locate beacon. So now you can see that we've got to the endpoint of the lore, and I'm showing you the subsections of the Outriders Primaris bikers. Once again, I've done this in order to make sure that I get all the fine detail when painting these guys. You can see the poses and the actions, and of course the backpacks are on there. Now, cutting out the last bits of the Space Marine Outrider squad, Primaris variety is the outer bits that go around the bikes. When I was cutting these out, I believe I had already sprayed the base colours for the Space Marines that go on the bike and the bikes themselves, and the colour I normally use is Wraithbone. The reason I use Wraithbone, even though the main colour of my chapter is red, is that it helps bring out finer details in the model, and it's also easier to do like the oath papers, the belts, the harnesses, any sort of metal fatigues, because I normally use a combination of not only contrast colours but the normal main colours from the Cathedral range. Of course you can paint your Space Marines and Space Marine bikers in whatever colours you like, doing it however you like. I just prefer to do it this way. Now what I'm doing here is for the Sergeant, which is Sergeant Sorrow. Sorrow is the name of this Sergeant, and it's the one that was influenced by one of the many people in my online Dungeons and Dragons group of the Wilderness campaign that we're in, which we are known to be called ourselves the Ashen Feathers, which has influenced me to obviously name my important characters sergeants, lieutenants, chapter command from that campaign. There are also other instances of other D&D campaigns I've done for some of the characters, but we'll get to them when we get to them. Now, as you can probably see, what I'm doing here is removing the bubbles and lines from the moulding where he was cut out with the remover tool. This is the cathedral remover tool. Of course, there are others. Of course, if there's any higher bits that will take a while and just damage it, I use the clippers again just to try and get that down a bit more before smoothing it out. Even though you won't see the bottom of this once the Space Marine bikes are fully built and painted, it just feels better for me to have that, have that done. Sorrow in the D&D campaign is a mixture character. He uses range attacks and melee, which is perfect for a Space Marine, and he's a highly mobile character, which is perfect for a biker marine, or an outrider as they're called. Now, of course, the Primaris Outriders only came into being after the resurrection of Rabute Gilliam, when the Primaris Marines were brought into the lore and the chapters. Primaris Marines, obviously being a bit bigger and tougher than their normal Space Marine counterpart, needed newer bikes. Even though they're still based off the older bike sachet template, let's say template because my S is today, it is bigger and more robust than the original biker and Space Marine bikes. They've of course got the new Primaris weaponry, the new bolters that are on there, the Mark 10 power arm plate, and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, so now because the sword is actually attached to one of the sides of the bikes, I decided to stick it on now instead of painting them separately. It's to stop any sort of issues with glue running and stuff like that. Okay. Now onto the arms and stuff for the other Space Marine bikers. I will now go into a bit of time-lapsing here with the copyright-free music that you've been hearing throughout running underneath. And there they are, all built, painted and ready to go. This Primaris Outrider Squadron in the chapter colours of the Ashen Feathers. I still need a bit more work on them, I think. The gold still hasn't come out the way I want it to, but I am getting there. Getting much better. As you can see, thanks to painting it in subsections, I've been able to get in all the finer detail. And on the bikes, on the guns, on the tires, and the eyes, which light up blue with the power armor activated there. You can see some of the internal workings that I was able to do off camera, which you should have seen a bit better in the time-lapsed construction when I was putting all the painted sections together. Here, of course, is their leader, Sergeant Sorrow, the one based off the Dungeons and Dragons character in my Warhammer campaign. He has his own personal heraldry, which is a purple skull on his helmet. I don't know if you can see it well there because of the way the lighting is. But that character has a session with the colour purple. Well, he is a purple tiefling. So I just wanted to put a nod to that in the helmet. There, once again, you can see that I was able to do quite a lot of nice shading and colouring. And I say I'm still needing a bit of work with it, you know, just because I do. But as always, for the last one here, I hope that you've enjoyed the video. As always, do feel free to leave a comment in the descriptions about your thoughts, where I can improve, that kind of stuff. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Share this video with others if you believe they will find it interesting. And, as always, this is DCB. Knowledge is power if we use it wisely.